So Nobel laureate and New York Times op-ed columnist Paul Krugman has weighed in multiple times actually at this point about how strong the economy is under Joe Biden, and he's been talking up a, quote, Biden boom, for which he's apparently received, rightly I would say, a lot of mockery. So he's defending himself online and just making it way, way worse. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. He says, "Since I get lots of mockery for having talked about a Biden boom, I thought I'd share a chart." And it's a chart of jobs added under Biden versus under Trump. And then he says, "The problem may be that the Biden economy boomed too much, feeding inflation, and that it now needs to cool off, which might involve a recession, but hasn't yet." He's got to get that in there too to make sure he's on board with the talking points that there is no recession yet. And then he goes on to add this caveat, and yes, I know there are all kinds of issues about different starting points, the role of federal policy, et cetera. But the basic fact is that so far the Biden economy has added 9 million jobs. So it has been a jobs boom, whatever else you might say. That's probably the most honest part of it. I don't think anyone has denied, yes, coming out of COVID when you had the economy shut down, there was going to be a jobs boom, no doubt about it. And it is true that we're in this really weird economic moment where you have low unemployment, but you have high inflation, so you have real wages getting cut and slashed every week, and all these weird supply shortages. And I mean, you know, we cover all the economic issues on this show all the time, but the part of it I also find quite extraordinary here, Saagar, behind the idea, aside from the idea that the Biden economy boomed too much, and that's the problem, is that now you have to have a recession. That's the way to deal with it. I mean, this is really, this mindset, it's sort of sociopathic mindset from Larry Summers, from Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Fed, from Krugman. You hear, you know, people on the Wall Street networks talking routinely about how we have to get wages down, how we have to essentially risk triggering a recession, that's the most important goal, which is just grotesque. And as we've discussed before, the tools that they're using with Fed policy to potentially spark this, I mean, not potentially, to spark this recession and to hurt all of you, these are not even effective tools to deal with the underlying causes of inflation.
I think that's the biggest one to me, which is that it doesn't work. Like, what is the point? Which is that why even admitting in this framework, and Krugman has embarrassed himself because he's also been one of the people who's like trying to redefine recession. This stuff drives me crazy. It all is just about cope from the administration, the whole boom too much. They can never just admit the underlying structure of the economy is bad. It's not working. Let's figure out not only why, but how to fix it. Instead, they try and focus and argue backwards to redefine the narrative and then not do anything on the front end. So this is all just propaganda wars about the past. I don't think anybody cares. Honestly, I mean, sure, to the limited extent of like what it means that we should do in the future, but anyway, I think it's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just another window into the gross policy view and choices and level of propaganda coming from economic elites who have a lot of influence in this country. I mean, the Fed has so much power, totally undemocratic. You know, we've been told and persuaded over a lot of years that we basically just have to leave it up to them and they know better than we do and we really shouldn't have any say in it at all. No, like, you know, there's no sort of popular movements around trying to influence, well, I shouldn't say that, but there's been an effort to persuade Americans not to have popular will around what happens with the Fed, even though it is the most powerful factor in our economy ultimately. And so you have things like this where it's just gaslighting. I mean, people know what their lives are like. They know that they're reading an article about how moms are having to police how much shampoo their kids use and, you know, cutting back on fresh fruits and vegetables, really unable to afford it anymore. People are making these choices in real time. They know what is going on in their lives. And I can promise you that it does not feel like the Biden economy, quote, boomed too much.
Yep, exactly. People know they're smart enough to figure this out. Booming too much. Tell that to the people who've been, it's been over a year. It's not like gas wasn't already high before Russia invaded Ukraine. We've had port problems for 16, 17 months. So yeah, boom too much. Okay, thanks.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.